stand together strong, the borders will be gone. We the people, we rise and shine so bright. Free the people, out of darkness to the light. We are the world, one God, one aim, one destiny. We are family, a higher love. We are we. When the powers that be divide us endlessly, they build their walls of lies and hate only to deceive. But we never alone in this twilight zone. We just need one stone, break out of Babylon. I see you and me, a reflection of my soul. Love and compassion, for our world peace be whole. We all are chosen with a divine destiny. We share one earth together, one love energy. We the people, we rise and shine so bright. Free the people, out of darkness to the light. We are the world, one God, one aim, one destiny. We are family, a higher love. We are we. Yes, out of this real situation, we shock the world and be an inspiration. Show acts of mercy, even a kiss of kindness. We free the children from all this blindness. Find a real compassion for people of every nation. From many paths we walk to one destination. Don't let division corrupt this inner vision. For all humanity, we're on a one love mission. We the people, we rise and shine so bright. Free the people, out of darkness to the light. We are the world, one God, one aim, one destiny. We are family, a higher love. We are we the people. We rise and shine so bright. Free the people, out of darkness to the light. We are the world, one God, one aim, one destiny. We are family, a higher love. We are we. Every time. You know who we are. All together.
Screenplay writers, actors, directors, musicians, authors, and entertainment. You are invited to join us here at KEI TV. For more information, call 972-989-9925.
For you. There's something that I want to say, but the words sometimes get in the way. I just want to show my feelings for you. Yeah. There's nothing that I'd rather do than spend every moment with you. I guess you Oh, baby, you are my lady. You're all I'm living for. There's no way that I can resist your precious kiss. Girl, you got me so hypnotized. Yeah. Just say you stay with me, 'cause our love was meant to be. I promise to let you're like a melody that never goes away. You're the sweetest, easiest song to sing. You're like a work of art, so priceless to me. Beauty from a movie screen, never ever seen. on the ice. Never thought we'd make it, but I knew it from the start. So let's celebrate, 'cause we've got it good. Our classic going down in history. It feels just like we won the lottery. Oh, baby, put that glass down and turn the music up. This one seems to be written for the two of us. Do you remember that in September when we fell in love? This one's for me and you. So let the record play. I love the way it makes your body move. It sounds so good to me. It reminds me of you. When the record plays, the melody, and love feels like a groove. It sounds so good to me. This one's for me and you. Let it play, let it play, let it play. This one's for me, baby. Let it play, let it play, let it play. One for me and you. Let it play, let it play, let it play. This one's for my baby. Let it play, let it play, let it play. Now baby, put that glass down and turn the music up with me. It's like these words were written just for the two of us. You remember that you said tonight when we fell in love. This one for me, yeah. So let the record play. I love the way it makes your body move. It sounds so good to me. We must give you. And when the record plays, the melody, love feels so good. Yeah, baby, it sounds so good to me. What's for me? Let it play, let it play, let it play. This one's for my baby. Let it play, let it play, let it play. One for me. Let it play, let it play, let it play. This one's for my baby. Let it play, let it play, let
It's premier programming at its best. You're with Tony and Jill on KEI TV. It's Tony. It's Jill on KEI TV.
We'll be back with Tony and Jill on KEI TV.
I found the gem of all gems. In Lithonia, Georgia is the new Black Wall Street. It opened on Black Friday, and this place is legitimately like this organized, amazing space for Black creators, for Black business owners, for all things Black. Everyone is able to share what they're selling, what they're doing. We got all sorts of artists, all sorts of business owners, ranging from like skincare products and clothing and juices and books. I mean, it is super incredible, and it is just the idea of keeping the money within our community, y'all. We went to this awesome bookstore. We had to, of course, pick.
The more money you make, the more the IRS will take. So if you go from making $75,000 to $150,000, you're not going to see $75,000 divided by 12 on your paycheck. As a matter of fact, I know people who get a raise from $100,000 on their job to $200,000, and they've actually seen less on their check, because the more money you make, the more tax brackets you enter into. I remember my first check went from $10,000 to $20,000, a pay period. I was looking for this check. Now, let's be clear. I was living check to Monday, so I had already spent the money, okay? I knew the check was coming. So when I got the $10,000 check, my net pay was $8,500. I was married with 3 children, 5 exemptions, so I had 5 allowances on my W-4. I thought that's how it worked. So when I was getting this $20,000 commission, I thought, I'll have $16,000, $17,000. Let me tell you something. I got the check. The check was like $9,000. Let me tell you, I almost passed out right there in the office. I got dizzy. Then I said, child, you can't die because you need your money. I said, you right. So I went into the office and I called the IRS. People said, well, why'd you call the IRS? Because they had my money. Who else you gonna call? I can call the HR people. They don't have my money. I'm looking at the check. It says FICA them, so that's who I'm calling. So I called the IRS and I got on the phone. I told them my situation. I didn't even know who to call or what to say. All I know is half my check is gone and I need it back. So they heard my story and they said, oh, we're going to put you on with a withholding agent. I thought, whoo, child, they got somebody named that? Okay, you got a withholding agent. So I was ready. I was already counting the minutes to when I was going to get my money. So the withholding agent came on and she started to ask me all these questions. By like question number 10 or 11, I started to get nervous. She put me on hold, came back, and her calculation was only 2 pennies different than my check. That's when I learned the more money you make, the more the IRS will take. I did not think that when you grow in life, that you make more money and get less. That just didn't seem fair to me. So the first thing is to spend less money. The next thing is, yes, to get more money. Multiple streams of income, a raise on your job, do some extra shifts. But the third ingredient is the single most important ingredient, and that is you have to get your money back. Well, guess what? That's what the IRS says. The IRS says if you drive your car for business, you can get your money back. If you just go and drive for personal reasons, you don't. If you have a business dinner or business lunch, you can get your money back. If you take a business trip, you can get your money back. The IRS says this well over hundreds and hundreds of times. So
Screenplay writers, actors, directors, musicians, authors, and entertainment. You are invited to join us here at KEI TV. For more information, call 972-989-9925.
So boss man, give me where me come from. Stop beat around the bush. You know see me frustrated and the youths are dead for younger. And you know stay like how we look. So boss man, give me where me come from. Stop beat around the bush. You know see me frustrated.
Bingo, the fall. So I get a call from out of nowhere, and it's this guy, Philip, who wants me to go down to his father's house and clean up after him. Now, why would he want somebody he don't even know to come down and clean up after his father? Especially since he's obviously embarrassed.
Why doesn't he do it himself?
Exactly. So I go down there, and I can't believe it. There's newspapers, magazines, old boxes, groceries piled up to the ceiling. I'm wondering how did it get this far?
I'm wondering too.
I mean, these are lazy people. If their father can't clean up after himself, why don't they help him out?
I don't know.
Where's the love in this family?
I don't know that either.
Where's the love in this family?
William was a lifesaver. I went in there a bunch of times to try to clean up myself, and every time, it just turned into a stupid fight.
What was Phil doing in there? My home, my stuff? You start throwing it away, that's stealing.
He would accuse me of stealing 8-year-old newspapers.
I couldn't get that through his thick skull.
I even tried sneaking in there at 3 in the morning when he was in bed sleeping. It turned out, not only that he had better hearing than I thought, but that he had a gun.
I would have shot him. And then when the police came, you know what the charge would have been? Suicide. Sneaking around in a man's home in the middle of the night.
I turn around, and there's a barrel of a rifle pointing at my face from 2 feet away.
Wouldn't have felt an ounce of guilt.
So, obviously, that was my last try at cleaning out my dad's stuff. So, I spoke to Mary, who was already my dad's home health aide back then. This has been a long haul. She suggested that I call her ex-husband, Bill.
Hi friends, Jay Sennett. Welcome to another edition of Cooking with Jay. I like to say this, I hope all of you are doing well, and really, I do hope all of you are doing well. And as always, thank you for watching To Cooking with Jay. Today, we're going to put together some interesting flavor profiles. One dish I'm going to make, this beautiful striped bass fillet. It's a miso glazed striped bass fillet. I'm going to grill it though. I'm going to put it on a grill. Okay? And the way I made this, I made the miso glaze, which I'm going to show you how I make that in just a moment. But I did this earlier, made the glaze, put it in a baggie, cover, make sure the fillet is covered with this glaze, and let it marinate for a few hours in the refrigerator. Okay? Then I take it out, get ready. I heat it up to grill. The grill's ready to go. I'll take that out there in just a moment. Leftovers. You know, what do we do with leftovers? And one of my favorite leftovers, mashed potatoes. Okay, my grandmother used to make delicious potato cakes with leftover mashed potatoes. So I had some mashed potatoes that I made, and I decided that I'll put a little bit of a twist on some potato cakes. I'm going to make a panko encrusted Parmesan potato cake, which I actually, for the sake of time, have already made. So that's what these beautiful things are right here. These beautiful potato cakes, panko encrusted, the crispy texture, the flavors, some mashed potatoes, right? About a cup of flour. I finely diced up an onion. Put some onion in here. Now keep in mind, you've already made the mashed potatoes, okay? So they probably have butter in them or cream, or butter and cream. I put milk and cream in mine, along with butter and a healthy dose of salt and pepper, okay, in there as well. So you have all that already, and the potatoes are already cooked. Mashed potatoes are already cooked. So just want to make sure when you're making these potato cakes, okay, you get the flour consistency. You need an egg. Now the flour and egg will act as a binder, you know that. And you won't have to put any more salt and pepper on it. Then I take a couple of egg yolks, beat the egg yolks, lightly beat the egg yolks. And I have a separate pot or pan or bowl over here with the panko breadcrumbs. Create the potato cake, dip the potato cake in the egg, then cover the potato cake with the panko breadcrumbs, okay? And then I saute or pan cook the potato cake just for a few minutes on each side, 2 to 3 minutes on each side. Keep in mind the potatoes are already cooked, okay? But you want to make sure you get that flour and egg to settle in with that flavor, and you get those onions to cook a little bit that you put in there. All right, so that's what these are over here. I'm not going to make these for the sake of time, but something else I'm going to make, this beautiful vegetable right here. This is Swiss red chard. I'm going to make a garlic Swiss chard Bella mushroom stir fry to go with my fish and these potato cakes, okay? So what I'm going to do right now is take my fish out to my grill, get this cooking, then I'm going to come back and I'll show you how I make that miso glaze and the Swiss chard stir fry. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Okay, put the fish on the grill. My striped bass, my miso glazed striped bass. And now let's go over here to the stove. These potato cakes are sitting there. Let's go over to the stove and I'm going to show you how I make this miso glaze. Okay, I take a little bit of white wine, maybe half a cup. Half a cup. So maybe a little more than half a cup, but that's okay. All right, and I get some rice wine vinegar. Put this in there, just about a small quarter cup of rice wine vinegar in there with the wine. Now let this cook down just a little bit. It'll start to boil rapidly. Now turn the fire on here in my wok pan to make the garlicky Swiss chard. Oh, that's beautiful, isn't it? That's just stunning. Stunningly beautiful vegetable right here. Yes, it is. But I'm going to eat you today. Yes. All right, so that's heating up. I just have some olive oil in here. Now you can also make this stir fry. It depends. You know, sometimes I'll make it with sesame oil or grapeseed oil. But generally, for the most part, I use olive oil. Okay, in my stir fry when I'm making the stir fry. But if I'm not using a stir fry mixture, which I am here, I'm putting some stir fry mixture in there. So I didn't use the sesame oil. I just keep it with the extra virgin olive oil. All right, now my wine and vinegar, right, rice wine vinegar, starting to boil, and it will start to reduce a bit, just for a few more seconds. And this is getting hot. So now what I want to do here is add my garlic. Put the garlic in the pot. Just for a few seconds, okay? Now I want to add my Swiss chard. Mixed around. Garlic. Some of this oil. You might have to put a little bit more oil in the pan. Okay? This is going to cook down and absorb some of that oil, but that's okay. It's kind of, in a way, like kale. You cook it. All right. And this white wine vinegar mixture is down. Okay, so now I want to get some of the miso paste. All right, add some miso paste in here. Not too much. Okay, and I want to add a little bit of sesame oil. Okay, about a tablespoon of sesame oil. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of sugar in here. All right, and I'm going to add my mushrooms in this mixture over here. So we'll stir. This is for my miso paste. And one more ingredient. I'm going to add some samba olek. You can also add sriracha in here as well. Okay? Samba olek is a hot sauce. All right. Now when you put these mushrooms in, it's really going to absorb some of that oil, so put a little bit more oil in here. All right. It's all right, it's olive oil. There we go. Turn the fire off for this miso glaze. fantastic. And the Swiss chard, my garlic and Swiss chard Bala mushroom stir fry. Smells good. Miso paste. All right. The Swiss chard stir fry. Last thing I'm going to put in here, stir fry mixture. Just a little bit of stir fry sauce. Call it mixture, just a little bit. Stir fry sauce. Yes. All right, you can turn that off. I'm going to check the time on the fish. So, one more time, this miso glaze. White wine, a half cup of white wine, quarter cup of, a small quarter cup of rice wine vinegar, add about a tablespoon of sugar, add a tablespoon of sesame oil, and then we put about a teaspoon of samba or lek in here, and you can also use sriracha, okay? All right, so what we're going to do now, we're going to go out and check my fish. We'll see how the fish is doing and bring it in. Then we'll start to plate this delicious dish with these potato cakes too. Don't forget about those lonely potato cakes sitting over there right now. I'm gonna go out and get the fish. Be right back. Okay. Oh, look at that beautiful striped bass, miso glazed striped bass fillet. Now I'm gonna set this down. I'm gonna get my plate. Yummy. Now, I'm going to get one of my potato cakes. Yes. And I'm going to get some of this delicious stir fry on the plate. These mushrooms. And running around the kitchen. All right, so last but not least, I'm going to add this beautiful, oh man, on top of that. Yep, again, you always hear me talk about this. This is live. This out of the way. And one more thing I'm going to add here. Now you can do a couple of different things with the miso glaze, okay? Take some of this miso glaze. Since the fish was marinating in it. Put some of that over there like that. Voila. A delicious meal. Let me tell you what you have. This is a miso glazed grilled striped bass fillet steak right here. Okay, I made the miso glaze and I had it marinating in a baggie for a few hours in the refrigerator before I put it on the grill. And the rule of thumb with fish thickness, generally if you have about an inch of fish, thick-wise, 8 to 10 minutes, okay? If you're cooking salmon like that on the grill, you might like your salmon a little less cooked. Certainly for tuna, less cooked, okay? But for the big, thick, meaty white fish, like the striped bass or haddock or cod or something like that, generally if you have an inch of thickness, it's about 8 to 10 minutes, okay? So that's what I had this on the grill for. Then, so I grilled my fish. Then I made my garlic, red chard, Swiss red chard, Bala mushroom stir fry. Okay, you saw how I put that together. And then these potato cakes. From leftover mashed potatoes, I made a panko encrusted Parmesan potato cake. All right, and simply I get about a cup of flour, put the flour in a bowl, put the potatoes in a bowl. I finally mince up an onion, get 1 egg, add the egg in there. The egg and the flour act as a binder. Now keep in mind, these are already cooked potatoes. You already have them seasoned, butter, cream, salt, pepper, all those things. So you really don't have to add salt, pepper, or anything like that to them. Then you make your potato cakes. You might have to oil your hands a little bit, put some more flour in there if they're too loose or something like that, not as binding. Make your potato cake. Then in another bowl, you lightly beat up a couple of egg yolks. Okay. Then you put the potato cake and the egg yolk. Then over here in this pan, the panko breadcrumbs. Oh, I also forgot to say, you put some Parmesan cheese in with that flour, potato, onion mixture. Okay, some Parmesan, grated Parmesan cheese. Okay. Then you bread it with the panko, and then some oil. Cook them for about 2-3 minutes each side. You see that beautiful texture right there, the crispiness. And you know what I want to do while we're on camera? I want to take a bite. It's nice and crunchy on the outside. Oh yeah. That's delicious. The panko breadcrumbs gives it a nice crispy outer texture. Put some onions in there, gives it some more texture actually and some more flavor. All right. You already have them seasoned with salt and pepper. And you can taste them again beforehand, before you actually make the potato cakes. Maybe you might want to add a little bit more salt, a little bit more black pepper, whatever it is to your liking. I'm going to go eat this beautiful, beautiful dish. I'm Jay Sennett. Thank you for watching Cooking with Jay. Sunday evenings, it airs starting at 6 p.m. on the WHO Public Media Facebook page. You can see archive programs of Cooking with Jay at the WHO Public Media YouTube channel. Put together a lot of dishes over these past few years. I love cooking, it's a passion, and I love the creative process of cooking and just learning and growing, developing my chef skills, and we're going to take it to a new level. We're going to have a blast doing it. And thank you for coming along with me for this journey. Until the next edition of Cooking with Jay. Oh, one more thing. Don't forget, Send It in Session. My jazz show, Monday through Thursday nights from 9 until 1. Saturday mornings for all you late birds out there from 1 until 5. Sunday afternoons from 1 until 5. And the great R&B soul program, the R&B Chronicles, Friday nights from 7 until 8. Be safe, friends. We'll see you again soon with the next edition of Cooking with Jay. Take care.
Let me tell you something about the worst continent in the world. A dangerous place with extreme poverty, corruption, poor education system, and so many more bad things. Seriously, why would anyone want to live in Africa? Night fam, the horrible words I just said felt very uncomfortable to me. But sadly, that is exactly how many of us still see Africa. I mean, just look at this very insensitive comment. This tweet is almost 8 years old, but the negative stereotypes remain till today.
What do you have to lose? You're living in poverty, your schools are no good, you have no jobs.
And that is why in this video we will break the myth once and for all. Because it's about time we stop seeing Africa as a place that only struggles. Ladies and gentlemen, this video is to break stereotypes about Africa. For starters, let me remind you, Africa is a diverse continent of over 50 countries. So many countries, yet people think it has no access to modern technology. Which is crazy, because maybe they haven't heard about these giant traffic regulating robots in Congo. Do you know any other country that has this? Or maybe they haven't read much about Kenya, which is doing the most efficient way of fighting deforestation. Look at how they are planting millions of trees through these seed bombs from helicopters. Pretty cool, right? But what about those who still think that quality health is hopeless in Africa? Tell them about Rwanda, the first country in the world that made use of drones to deliver medicines and blood nationwide. Not many people know this, but ancient people in Nigeria and South Africa actually had more advanced medicine than Europe during their time. From pain and bacteria killers to anti-cancer drugs, and according to historians, even the modern birth delivery, C-section. And the list of amazing things doesn't stop here, because the world consumes 400 billion cups per year of this next thing. If you drank your morning coffee today, you have to be grateful to Ethiopia for discovering it. And if that fact didn't wake you up yet, I want you to imagine how schools look like in Africa. You probably think of this, But did you think of a setup like in Rwanda, where every child has a laptop? The country even launched a satellite to provide internet to rural schools. And for countries with expensive education and student debt, you might want to cover your ears now, because in Seychelles, Mauritius and Namibia, education is free for most of their schooling years. Finally, let's look at the most common stereotype. Is Africa very poor? Well, this will come as a surprise to many, but 6 of the 10 fastest growing economies in the world right now are from Africa. And almost half of the continent are now at middle income level. In fact, the richest man in history of mankind, so rich that even Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos cannot come close, was an African king named Mansa Musa. Add to that the fact that Africa produces 46% of the world's diamonds, as well as 21% of its gold. If any, it has all the right to strive to become a global superpower. Experts even estimate that within the next 80 years, 13 of 20 world super cities will be found, that's right, also in Africa. Now, it is incredibly important to clarify that, of course, in Africa there are still many areas that require a lot of global help. Areas that are very poor, that are struggling, that are dangerous. But in all of this, it is high time we finally celebrate African countries for all the amazing things they are achieving. They have been trying and succeeding for so many years now, and the world needs to see it. Thank you so much for watching, and I wanted to finish with some personal thoughts, because I've noticed that whenever I talk about Africa, and I have quite a lot of data making so many videos, for some reason people don't care. These videos don't really perform too well. I don't know why, but we as humans don't care much about this beautiful continent, and that's why I hope that you will support this video, like it, comment on it, share it. If you're still here, if you're still watching, please help me kill stereotypes, because it is our responsibility to not look down on the whole continent based on some assumptions that very often are not true. Thank you. Bye bye.
The more money you make, the more the IRS will take. So if you go from making $75,000 to $150,000, you're not going to see $75,000 divided by 12 on your paycheck. As a matter of fact, I know people who get a raise from $100,000 on their job to $200,000, and they've actually seen less on their check, because the more money you make, the more tax brackets you enter into. I remember my first check went from $10,000 to $20,000, a pay period. I was looking for this check. Now, let's be clear. I was living check to Monday, so I had already spent the money, okay? I knew the check was coming. So when I got the $10,000 check, my net pay was $8,500. I was married with 3 children, 5 exemptions, so I had 5 allowances on my W-4. I thought that's how it worked. So when I was getting this $20,000 commission, I thought, I'll have $16,000, $17,000. Let me tell you something. I got the check. The check was like $9,000. Let me tell you, I almost passed out right there in the office. I got dizzy. Then I said, child, you can't die because you need your money. I said, you right. So I went into the office and I called the IRS. People said, well, why'd you call the IRS? Because they had my money. Who else you gonna call? I can call the HR people. They don't have my money. I'm looking at the check. It says FICA name, so that's who I'm calling. So I called the IRS and I got on the phone. I told them my situation. I didn't even know who to call or what to say. All I know is half my check is gone and I need it back. So they heard my story and they said, oh, we're going to put you on with a withholding agent. I thought, whoo, child, they got somebody named that? Okay, you got a withholding agent. So I was ready. I was already counting the minutes to when I was going to get my money. So the withholding agent came on and she started to ask me all these questions. By like question number 10 or 11, I started to get nervous. She put me on hold, came back, and her calculation was only 2 pennies different than my check. That's when I learned the more money you make, the more the IRS will take. I did not think that when you grow in life, that you make more money and get less. That just didn't seem fair to me. So the first thing is to spend less money. The next thing is, yes, to get more money. Multiple streams of income, a raise on your job, do some extra shifts. But the third ingredient is the single most important ingredient, and that is you have to get your money back. Well, guess what? That's what the IRS says. The IRS says if you drive your car for business, you can get your money back. If you just go and drive for personal reasons, you don't. If you have a business dinner or business lunch, you can get your money back. If you take a business trip, you can get your money back. The IRS says this well over hundreds and hundreds of times. So,
Lamont, I take it you don't approve of your father and I getting married. Do you mind telling me why?
Because it's ridiculous, that's why. He's too old, and you're gonna be miserable. What kind of life is it being the wife of an old man?
What kind of life do you think it is being the father of a young dummy?
Don't call me no young dummy. You are a young dummy. You ain't got no try to do that, fool. Don't try to tell me nothing about my neither. I don't want to talk about it.
Please stop it. Lamont, I think you owe your father an apology.
And I owe him one across his lip.
After all, he is your father, and I think you ought to show some respect.
Tell that dummy.
And Fred, you be quiet.
What?
You only make things worse. Now, your son has a right to his opinion, and he has a right to defend his mother, so be quiet.
Listen, you don't tell me how to talk to my son, woman.
And don't you raise your voice at me, Fred Sanford.
I'll raise my voice when I get ready.
Not to me, you won't.
You and anybody else. You don't tell me when to raise my voice. I ain't taking no stuff off my first wife, and I ain't gonna take none off you either.
I'm beginning to understand why she died so young.
Well, young man. Your husband didn't live too long either, did he?
I am glad I found out about your bad temper.
And I'm glad I found out about your big mouth.
If you will excuse me, I'll just get my coat.
Donna, wait a minute. Where you going?
I'm leaving. I don't see any reason to stay on, do you?
Listen, I didn't mean to upset you. Now you gonna let a little argument ruin all our plans?
You said some very nasty things to me, Fred. Very nasty.
But we're supposed to be compatible. See, you'd be different if you was Taurus the bull. You're not a bull. You Leo the lion.
Well, that's true.
Well, will you stay?
If you're really and truly sorry.
I really am truly sorry.
Honestly?
Honestly.
All right, I'll stay.
Oh, great. Gee whiz, come on back over here and sit down. Hey, son, I took back all the things I said about Dinah. Now, everything's all right again.
Oh, really? Even the part about how she's over the hill?
Who said that?
He did last night when he was talking about you.
What you want to bring that up for?
Well, as long as you're taking stuff back, you might as well take it all back. There's no need in starting off your marriage with secrets between you.
Did you say that about me?
I don't remember. If I said it, I didn't mean it the way it sounded.
Just how did you mean it?
Well, I might have said, you know, for somebody that was over the hill, you wasn't bad. And if you put on some dark glasses, people wouldn't be able to see them bags under your eyes.
Well, I think that just about does it.
Well, what's the matter?
The matter is that you're very much out of line, Mr. Sanford.
Well, if you think you're gonna shut me up every time I get ready to say something, then you forget about the whole thing, Mrs. Harris.
That's fine with me. I'm leaving.
Bye.
I should have realized you have the manners of a common junk man.
I should have realized that you wasn't over the hill, you down in the valley. You're not Leo the lion, you down in the barracuda. I should have known she was gonna turn out like that.
Yeah, it's a good thing you found out in time, Pop.
Yeah, I ain't gonna let no woman walk over me.
Yeah, you really stood up to her.
You have to. You have to.
I was proud of you, Pop.
You got to get things straightened out right in the beginning.
Right.
Right. You know, son, I don't remember saying she was over the hill.
You don't, huh?
No.
Well, I was sure you did. Hey, Pop, did, what's her name make any dessert?
Yeah, she made some hot sweet potato pie, like your mama used to make.
I hope it's better than Mama used to make. I'll get it.
Hi, friends. Jay Sennett. Welcome to another.
Now we have Mr. James Baldwin, the star of the evening, who has been sitting, listening attentively, and getting a wonderful reception here in the Cambridge Union. Tremendous enthusiasm from all sides of the House for Mr. Baldwin, who has been listening to the arguments. Now will bring the voice of actual experience to the debate.
Good evening. I find myself, not for the first time, in the position of a kind of Jeremiah. For example, I don't disagree with Mr. Burford that the inequality suffered by the American Negro population of the United States has hindered the American dream. Indeed, it has. I quarrel with some other things he has to say. The other, deeper element of a certain awkwardness I feel has to do with, it has to do with one's point of view, I have to put it that way, one's sense, one's system of reality. It would seem to me that the proposition before the House, when I put it that way, is the American dream at the expense of the American Negro, or the American dream is at the expense of the American Negro, is a question hideously loaded, and that one's response to that question, or one's reaction to that question, has to depend on an effect on where you find yourself in the world, what your sense of reality is, what your system of reality is. That is, it depends on assumptions which we hold so deeply as to be scarcely aware of them. A white South African, or a Mississippi sharecropper, or a Mississippi sheriff, or a Frenchman driven out of Algeria, all have, at bottom, a system of reality which compels them to, for example, in the case of the French exile from Algeria, to defend French reasons for having ruled Algeria. The Mississippi or the Alabama sheriff, who really does believe when he's facing a Negro boy or girl, that this woman, this man, this child, must be insane to attack the system to which he owes his entire identity. Of course, for such a person, the proposition of which we're trying to discuss here tonight does not exist. And on the other hand, I have to speak as one of the people who've been most attacked by what we must now here call the Western or the European system of reality. What white people in the world, because the doctrine of white supremacy, I hate to say it here, comes from Europe. That's how it got to America. Beneath then, whatever one's reaction to this proposition is, has to be the question of whether or not civilizations can be considered as such equal, or whether one civilization has the right to overtake and subjugate and in fact to destroy another. Now what happens when that happens? Leaving aside all the physical facts which one can quote, leaving aside rape or murder, leaving aside the bloody catalog of oppression, which we are in one way too familiar with already, what this does to the subjugated, the most private, the most serious thing this does to the subjugated, is to destroy his sense of reality. It destroys, for example, his father's authority over him. His father can no longer tell him anything because the past has disappeared, and his father has no power in the world. This means, in the case of an American Negro, born in that glittering republic, and in the moment you are born, since you don't know any better, every stick and stone and every face is white, and since you have not yet seen a mirror, you suppose that you are too. It comes as a great shock around the age of 5 or 6 or 7 to discover that the flag to which you have pledged allegiance, along with everybody else, has not pledged allegiance to you. It comes as a great shock to discover that Gary Cooper killing off the Indians when you were rooting for Gary Cooper, that the Indians were you. It comes as a great shock to discover that the country, which is your birthplace, and to which you owe your life and your identity, has not in its whole system of reality evolved any place for you. The disaffection, the demoralization, and the gap between one person and another, only on the basis of the color of their skins, begins there and accelerates throughout a whole lifetime, so that presently you realize you're 30 and are having a terrible time managing to trust your countrymen. By the time you are 30, you have been through a certain kind of mill. And the most serious effect of the mill you've been through is again not the catalog of disaster. The policemen, the taxi drivers, the waiters, the landlady, the landlord, the banks, the insurance companies, the millions of details, 24 hours of every day, which spell out to you that you are a worthless human being. It is not that. It's by that time you've begun to see it happening in your daughter or your son or your niece or your nephew. You are 30 by now, and nothing you have done has helped you to escape the trap. But what is worse than that is that nothing you have done, and as far as you can tell, nothing you can do, will save your son or your daughter from meeting the same disaster and not impossibly coming to the same end. Now, we're speaking about expense. I suppose there are several ways to address oneself to some attempt to define what that word means here. Let me put it this way, that from a very literal point of view, the harbors and the ports and the railroads of the country, the economy, especially of the southern states, could not conceivably be what it has become if they had not had, and do not still have indeed, and for so long, so many generations, cheap labor. I am stating very seriously, and this is not an overstatement, that I picked the cotton, and I carried it to market, and I built the railroads under someone else's whip for nothing. For nothing. The Southern oligarchy, which has until today so much power in Washington, and therefore some power in the world, was created by my labor and my sweat, and the violation of my women and the murder of my children. This, in the land of the free and the home of the brave. And no one can challenge that statement. It is a matter of historical record. In another way, this dream, and we'll get to the dream in a moment, is at the expense of the American Negro. You watch this in the Deep South in great relief, but not only in the Deep South. In the Deep South, you are dealing with a sheriff or a landlord or a landlady or the girl of the Western Union desk. And she doesn't know quite who she's dealing with, by which I mean that if you're not part of the town, and if you are a northern nigger, it shows in millions of ways. So she simply knows that it's an unknown quantity, and she wants to have nothing to do with it. So she won't talk to you. You have to wait for a while to get your telegram. Okay, we all know this. We've been through it. And by the time you get to be a man, it's very easy to deal with. But what is happening in the poor woman, the poor man's mind, is this. They've been raised to believe, and by now they helplessly believe, that no matter how terrible their lives may be, and their lives have been quite terrible, and no matter how far they fall, no matter what disaster overtakes them, they have one enormous knowledge and consolation, which is like a heavenly revelation. At least they are not black. Now I suggest that of all the terrible things that can happen to a human being, that is one of the worst. I suggest that what has happened to white Southerners is in some ways, after all, much worse than what has happened to Negroes there. Because Sheriff Clark in Selma, Alabama, cannot be considered, no one can be dismissed as a total monster. I'm sure he loves his wife, his children. I'm sure that, he likes to get drunk. He's, after all, one's got to assume, and he is visibly a man like me. But he doesn't know what drives him to use the club, to menace with the gun, and to use the cattle prod. Something awful must have happened to a human being to be able to put a cattle prod against a woman's breast, for example. What happens to the woman is ghastly. What happens to the man who does it is in some ways much, much worse. This is being done, after all, not 100 years ago, but in 1965, in a country which is blessed with what we call prosperity, a word we won't examine too closely, with a certain kind of social coherence, which calls itself a civilized nation and which espouses the notion of the freedom of the world. And it is perfectly true from the point of view now simply of an American Negro. Any American Negro watching this, no matter where he is, from the vantage point of Harlem, which is another terrible place, has to say to himself, in spite of what the government says we can't do anything about it. But those are white people being murdered in Mississippi work farms, being carried off to jail. Those are white children running up and down the streets. The government would find some way of doing something about it. We have a civil rights bill now. We had an amendment, the 15th Amendment, nearly 100 years ago. I hate to sound again like an Old Testament prophet, but if the amendment was not honored then, I don't have any reason for believing the Civil Rights Bill will be honored now. And after all, one's been there since before, a lot of other people got there. If one has got to prove one's title to the land, isn't 400 years enough? 400 years, at least 3 wars. The American soil is full of the corpses of my ancestors. Why is my freedom or my citizenship or my right to live there, how is it conceivably a question now? And I suggest further that in the same way, the moral life of Alabama sheriffs and poor Alabama ladies, white ladies, if their moral lives have been destroyed by the plague called color, that the American sense of reality has been corrupted by it. At the risk of sounding excessive, what I always felt when I finally left the country, found myself abroad in other places, and watched Americans abroad. And these are my countrymen, and I do care about them. And even if I didn't, there is something between us. We have the same shorthand. I know, when I look at a girl or a boy from Tennessee, where they came from in Tennessee, and what that means. No Englishman knows that, no Frenchman, no one in the world knows that except another black man who comes from the same place. One watches these lonely people denying the only kin they have. We talk about integration in America as though it was some great new conundrum. The problem in America is that we've been integrated for a very long time. Put me next to any African, and you will see what I mean. And my grandmother was not a rapist. What we are not facing is the results of what we've done. What one begs the American people to do for all our sakes is simply to accept our history. I was there not only as a slave, but also as a concubine. One knows the power, after all, which can be used against another person if you've got absolute power over that person. It seemed to me when I watched Americans in Europe that what they didn't know about Europeans was what they didn't know about me. They weren't trying, for example, to be nasty to the French girl or rude to the French waiter. They didn't know they hurt their feelings. They didn't have any sense that this particular woman, this particular man, though they spoke another language and had different manners and ways, was a human being. And they walked over them with the same kind of bland ignorance, condescension, charming and cheerful, with which they'd always patted me on the head and called me shine, and were upset when I was upset. What is relevant about this is that whereas 40 years ago when I was born, the question of having to deal with what is unspoken by the subjugated, what is never said to the master, of having to deal with this reality was a very remote possibility. It was in no one's mind. When I was growing up, I was taught in American history books that Africa had no history, and neither did I. That I was a savage, about whom the less said the better, who had been saved by Europe and brought to America. And of course, I believed it. I didn't have much choice. Those are the only books there were. Everyone else seemed to agree. If you walk out of Harlem, ride out of Harlem, downtown, the world agrees. What you see is much bigger, cleaner, whiter, richer, safer than where you are. They collect the garbage. People obviously can pay their life insurance. The children look happy, safe. You're not. And you go back home. And it would seem then, of course, that it's an act of God, that this is true, that you belong where white people have put you.